Welcome to another episode of Birdgang Nation Sports Talk. I'm your host, Birdgang 31, and we are here today with another great YouTube content creator, Gate City from Gate City Sports. What's up, my guy?
Hey, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you, Randall. My guy, Birdgang 31, invited me on. Talk a little Eagles football, man. Just talk football in general. Hey,
Yeah.
this is the thing I love, man. It's the thing I love about the Eagles community is that I think we're more interactive as content creators than any other community.
Yeah, like my boy Uncensored said, we're going to turn the YouTube green, baby, with all these content creators going out there, making good stuff happen. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Hey, go ahead and let everybody know in case they don't know of you, what you do, where you're from, give them a little background of your channel.
Sure, man. My name is Steve Hyder. I go by Gate City Sports on here. You might hear me referred to as Gate City. You might hear me referred to as Steve. You might hear him call me Stat Sheet Steve. It's all good. Call me what you want. Just don't call me late to dinner. So my background, guys, look, I'm not a college football player. That's not my story. I played a little bit in high school. I played for a long time, played all the way through Pee Wee and Pop Warner and stuff like that, guys. I really, buttered the bread and kind of, got my teeth cut really on coaching. That's where I really learned the game at the level that I know it now, is that I just got really fortunate. And I got really lucky. I started coaching underneath guys that really knew the football game very well, and they started imparting a lot of their wisdom onto me. And before you knew it, I kind of turned around. I would have conversations with people, and people would be like, "Yo, man, you should start a channel, man. You should definitely start a channel. Like, you could teach a lot of people because you got a lot of knowledge now." So it's funny, man. I used to be a young guy. Now I'm an older guy. You can relate to that, I know.
We were talking about that. Yeah.
I'm 38, but I still feel 18. It's crazy, man. But
exactly.
Bro, it sneaks up on you, man.
It definitely creeps up on you, man. I know we were talking about that. We are getting up there, but hey, you can't take away our joy. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about the birds, baby. How you think? Give me your outlook on the birds this year. What do you think we're gonna do?
I'll be honest with you, man. I have some excitement around the birds. I definitely. I don't know how good the team is. I don't think anyone really knows how good we are, but I am excited about the coaching staff, right? I'm really excited about this young coaching staff we brought in, from the defensive coordinator and Jonathan Gannon over to Nick Sirianni. And yes, he gets a little excitable, and man, there are times they really should snatch the mic from him. I agree, guys, but nonetheless, man, I love the guy's enthusiasm around the game. And if you've ever watched him do a film breakdown when he was with the Colts, or even the little bit he's done with Dave Spadaro and the guys at PhiladelphiaEagles.com, like, man, you would be, there's just no way you walk away from watching that guy break down film and not go, hey, man, like, this dude's impressive. He knows the game. Like, I don't know if he can lead men. That's something that people keep raising. We'll see. Who knows? But I do know that he seems to be innovative with scheme. I'm a scheme guy. I love me some scheme. This guy looks like he's the type of coach I would be. I would be very scheme oriented. I would be very much into player development, that kind of stuff. I also, Brian Johnson, young quarterback coach we have. This is a riser that was coming up through the ranks. He was already a young man in his mid to early 30s that was already, had an offensive coordinator gig. I don't know if he was necessarily calling plays out there at Florida, but this was a guy that was heading for a coaching gig, at least in college. He was going to get a head coaching gig there. I thought it was smart of the Eagles to try to snatch him and pull him up into the NFL ranks. We've had a lot of discussions on my channel about the advancement of minorities to head coaches and executive positions. And one of the things I kept saying to people was, there is a favoritism being given towards guys that work with quarterbacks in particular. So the more minority candidates you can get into those positions, the more likely they are to then become offensive coordinators, head coaches. Because even now, you don't need to be an OC to make that leap. You can be a position coach,
right,
and jump into the realm of coaching. So, I mean, getting a guy like Brian Johnson, who I think is going to be, I think, was it Manning they had, or it was one of those guys they had out there in Indianapolis that was a college guy they brought in, helped them instill some of Frank Reich's scheme and Nick Sirianni's scheme. And then that guy jumped and went to Iowa State. And now they're running Brock Purdy, and then we're running that scheme out there, Frank Reich's scheme, honestly. I think that's what Brian Johnson's going to do here at Philly. That gets me, is a guy that's worked with a lot of young quarterbacks, from Dak Prescott to De'Aaron King to knowing and having time spent with Jalen Hurts. So, this is a guy that, he's been around young quarterbacks. young quarterbacks that are mobile quarterbacks and has taught them how to stay on schedule, on pace with the offense, and know how to balance that. How to balance when a play's has broken down and it's time to get out of there versus when you should be reading the defense, reading the opportunity that's in front of you and taking advantage of it. I like Brian Johnson in that role. I think it's a very smart role for Brian Johnson. I think it's a great one. And even Shane Steichen, I've had some pretty funny back and forths with some guys that are Charger fans. And, they didn't like the Anthony Lynn, Shane Steichen kind of ending to the Chargers because they took some criticism. Especially for the way that they handled the run game, to be honest. And, there was a couple of calls that were made that they felt like, yo, man, like these are clear passing downs. Like, what are they doing? For an Eagles fan, it doesn't even bother us because, like, we're so used to throwing the ball when, it'd be like 1st and 2 for some weird, be 1st and 5 for some weird, crazy, off some kind of penalty. And we're still throwing. We don't care. We don't care about setting up an easy second down. Like we don't care. We're throwing. This is what we're built for. So I mean, like to us, it's kind of a welcomed addition here going into Shane Steichen. And we retained a couple of guys. Aaron Moorhead was retained. Of course, we kept Jeff Stoutland, which was a pretty big one there. So I mean, look, optimistic, but not really sure what we have. And I definitely think defensively, a lot of questions to be answered past 2021.
Okay. That's a good one. You're going to give me a record prediction.
Ooh, I'll tell you what, man. I will take anything over 6 wins as a very, very successful season. But to me, Birdgang, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to judge it upon the record. The record, like, don't get me wrong, you only win like 1 game. Like, yeah, we got a major problem here. But I mean, like if you come out, they win 6, 7 games, that's not really going to concern me. It's going to be more so like, what did I see from Jalen Hurts? What did I see from Miles Sanders? What did I see from Dallas Goedert? What did I see from Jalen Reagor, Devontae Smith? What did I see from Kenneth Gainwell? Travis Fulgham. What was the growth and development of the players? And does it look like we have the pieces to build going forward offensively? Because we've invested quite a bit recently on the offensive side of the football. At some point, we've got to get dividends paid back to us. And I think that the front office is banked on player development being the issue. So we got the guys in here to develop the players. It's got to work. And that's, to me, that's going to judge the success of the coaching hire, the success of the season, the front office, everything. To me, kind of, it really revolves around that, especially more so offensively.
Okay. I can agree with that. Everything is, we got to see as we go. Are these guys legit? Are they talking a talk and they're going to walk the walk, later with it? Or are they just talking just to make the Eagles fans happy? You know what I'm saying? I can see it for, like I tell everybody, I think we're going to go 12-5. That's just me being very optimistic about our team. I think we have a lot of explosive weapons and offense that can definitely score a lot of points. And I think our defense, besides that CB2 spot, is looking pretty good. We got depth at the defensive line. The other 3 besides the CB2, the cornerback, Big Play Slade's good. Like Harris, McLeod, and everybody's talking about Kayvon maybe jumping in for him until he's healthy. You know what I'm saying? I also like Jacoby Stevens maybe playing that hybrid role in that situation where he can help come up, play some good ball. I don't think he can be in the deep end, but, have him in that role where he can be up on the line, maybe coming back a little bit, that little rover spot, he plays some good ball there. Our linebacker looks solid. Wilson looked like, he looked pretty good to me last year. He had a lot of tackles. He did, some good things with Minnesota. And then Singleton, he had a great year last year. Well, great for Eagles linebacker, what I'm saying? So I'm looking forward to seeing these guys ball out this year, because I think everybody's underestimating them. It's going to be kind of like a Chip Kelly thing, No one knows the offense. You can look at every game take you want from last year and the years before. That's not our offense this year anymore, That Eagles is just gone, That defense is gone. So we got a whole new scheme, whole new outlook, what I'm saying? I think that's going to catch a lot of teams off guard. And if they do like they say they're going to do and switch it up from week to week, game to game, then how are you going to ever really pick up on it? You know what I'm saying? It's good. You're going to have to wait the next year, to pick up on it. So,
yeah, the defense is an interesting one to me. So just to kind of go over a little bit with Jonathan Gannon and like what I see, like first off, guys, to be honest, I don't think any of us really know the scheme yet. We're only making assumptions based upon press conferences and based upon previous experiences and the influences he has as a coach. But, secondary wise, it looks like to me he's going to play a lot of cover 3, but he'll build in some 2 safety stuff. We'll probably see a much higher utilization of cover 2 than we're used to seeing underneath Jim Schwartz. I do think we'll see a lot of quarters coverage, and I think you're going to see a lot of split field coverage concepts. So you're going to see those cover 6s and cover 7 concepts. Cover 7 being the most confusing concept to ever explain to people. I have an entire live stream, guys, where I went over that. Like, it's an incredibly difficult concept to explain to people. But basically, the cover 7 is brought in because of spread offenses. It's a way of counteracting spread offenses. But then you look at the defensive line, which is something you referenced, which is talent perspective for at least the 2021 season. You got Ryan Kerrigan, you got Josh Sweat, you got Derek Barnett, you got Brandon Graham. That's a really good 4 player, that's good depth there. Like, you got 4 really good defensive ends, right? On the interior line, I mean, we got Javon Hargrave, I thought got better as the season went on. I thought, I don't think he really popped to show that he's going to be like this dominating force that could potentially take over for Fletcher Cox down the road. I don't know if we've seen that out of him yet, but he definitely looked down the stretch that alongside of a guy like Fletcher Cox, he could be incredibly productive.
Yeah.
Look, Fletcher, I think if you can find the right scheme for him, if you can find the right way of singling him up, I think he could be a very impactful football player. Past them, I think that's where it gets a little iffy. I think we have guys that have shown a lot of promise at times. I don't know, like we signed the guy Willie Henry, who's had a couple of games here and there, never really a complete season to put together in Baltimore to say like is a big signing or anything. But I mean, certainly he's a guy with a veteran presence that could come in, definitely push a guy like Hassan Ridgeway. When Hassan Ridgeway has been healthy for the Eagles and in games, he was highly productive.
Yeah.
He's just been injured. I mean, we can't keep the guy on the field. It's just been a theme of the Eagles pretty much the entire Doug Peterson,
era. Yeah.
Yeah. It completely, basically defined us. Then I go past that, you got Milton Williams, who's a young guy that, really started out in college as a 5 technique. He was really kind of pushed into playing 3 technique last year. I mean, issues with the pandemic, which led to issues with scholarship and guys opting out and stuff like that. They had to ask him if he would bounce inside to play 3 tech. And look, I mean, when he played against guys that were not big and strong and fast, like when he wasn't playing the BYUs and the Marshalls and the teams of that sort, like when he had a mismatch on the guy and it was very obvious, he beat him up bad. Like, I know people will look at people and they'll be like, yeah, but I mean, look who they're playing. But it's like, yeah, but I mean, that still applies, man. Like, yes, yeah, he beat up on bad competition, but the key word is he beat up on it. It would be a problem if he was disappearing in those type of games, but he wasn't. I definitely think that we're going to have to see if he has the strength to anchor in the NFL, but he has really good hip balance. I mean, there's one thing on his film that popped out to me is that he really understands getting his hips under him correctly, which is something you don't really think of a whole lot for defensive linemen unless you play down there. I mean, Jalen would probably go on for hours about proper hip placement playing defensive line. He's really good at that. He shoots his hips really well. Outside of that, he has a very good initial pass rush move. Needs to develop that secondary pass rush move. But he's an athletic guy. This is an athletic guy.
A lot of good people help him out there.
Yeah. And then you got Marlon Tuipulotu. Kid they signed from USC. Yeah. Look, he's got a back issue, but I watched his film. And once again, we can get into the aspects of gait that was against the pack. I get it. It's against the pack, guys. I understand. But if you watch that rip move that he had at USC at the nose and the way that he was fighting with his hands, the way that he learned how to hand fight, there are some translatable skills there to the NFL. I don't know if it's going to come together, but I understand what the scouts were looking at and why they said, hey, man, we missed on the nose we wanted in the 3rd round, but this guy that we're getting in the 6th round due to injury and some other stuff, hey, man, this is a guy that would have been in consideration if healthy, if all these things in the 3rd round. So, I mean, I personally, I really like that pick a lot. This is a guy that I don't know where his health stands, but if he's healthy, I kind of expect him to turn heads in camp. I think a lot of fans are going to be like, hey, Gate, man, you know that dude you talked about, Big T? Hey, man, he's a player. You're right. I'm telling you, like, he definitely.
Yeah, a lot of people give him a little slack for, like, they said he took some plays off, but I'm a USC fan. I watch him, USC constantly. And, like, him and I think that safety, what was the safety? Mufunga, him and
Yeah.
Buffalo were the best ones on that defense. You know what I'm saying? So they were on the field all the time. So yeah, you might see them, get gassed out a little bit towards the end of the season because they were the defense in terms of like star players
Sure.
and make an impact on that team. So, being on this line with the depth that we have, he won't have to worry about doing all that. He should be able to come in fresh and do what he do because he is a beast when he's healthy.
Yeah. I guess the biggest concern I would have, though, is not 2021.
Mm-hmm.
CB2, definitely concerning. We can get into that a little bit later. It's absolutely a concern.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm more so concerned about the contracts and the situations with this football team. So if you look at the guys we added this past year, Eric Wilson, Anthony Harris, Ryan Kerrigan, Willie Henry, Nate Maters, Andrew Adams, right? If I'm not mistaken, and I could be wrong, guys, go look it up. One of the two of these guys might have signed on a 2-year deal, but I think they all signed 1-year deals.
Mm-hmm.
So right away, I'm not going to say we're certainly in a much better cap situation next year than we were this year, but it's still not completely peachy and rosy on the cap because we got some very important extensions that have to get worked out, which will bring to my next point about, okay, I just named the guys we added. Now let's talk about the guys that could be departing. So you got, Brandon Graham is probably playing his last year in Philadelphia. He's got dummy years pretty much on his contract after this season, guys. So he's pretty much done. Unless they work something else out with him. Then you have a guy like Derek Barnett who's playing on his 5th-year option. That's a really tricky situation because sometimes guys have career years on those 5th-year option deals to get big contracts. And you got to hope that work ethic, we got to hope that it was the injuries and other things with Derek Barnett and that in a new system with a new defensive line coach, with a new coordinator, with hopefully a better outlook on health, that's the bigger factor there. But if you sign him to that big deal because he produces this year, you know what I mean? That's going to cost money, Josh Sweat's playing on the last year of his rookie deal. That's going to hurt. Ryan Kerrigan was mentioned earlier. He's on a 1-year deal. Then you even go to guys like Fletcher Cox. Fletcher Cox is still technically under contract in 2022, but he has an out in his contract. Basically, when I say an out, guys, what I'm talking about is that the dead money hit is less than the actual salary figure. So that gives you a potential savings on the player that's generally thought of as being an out in the contract when you see that. Now, I'd have to really get into the particulars of his contract, guys. I don't know offhand if he has any kind of weird, signing bonus or roster bonus that gets enacted on a certain date of the calendar year. I don't know, guys. I have to really get down into the numbers, but I just know that right now, as it stands, that's what it's looking like. That's a lot of guys, right? I mean, we know that even Javon Hargrave reworked his deal this season, so he's got a complex cap figure situation coming up past this year. So I mean, there's a lot of issues here. You go down the list of you got Eric Wilson. That's a 1-year deal, guys. So, I mean, are you going to be able to get him back? I mean, if you subtract those guys out past this year, and I know that not everyone's going to get subtracted out, guys. We realize that. But when you look at it, look at the young guys that are behind them. You have an undrafted rookie free agent in Jaquan Bailey. Good, productive football player in his college career. He's not a top-line athlete, though. This is not a Josh Sweat level athlete. This is a very technically, sound guy, but he doesn't have the level of athleticism of a guy like Sweat. Teron Jackson, guy that I'm really high on. Played at Coastal Carolina, which is not far from where I'm at, guys. It is a little far, but I don't want to make it sound like it's a 30-minute drive. It's a few hours away, but close enough to where I've actually been on their campus. I was on their campus last year, actually. So he's a good-looking prospect that has a less than stellar initial pass rush move that needs to be refined. I don't know if that's an athletic limitation with him, but his secondary pass rush move. I mean, go back and watch this game against BYU, guys. If you don't know him and you're like, who is this guy talking about? Go back, watch Coastal Carolina's game against BYU and watch what Teron Jackson did to one of the 2 best offensive lines in college football last year. I mean, hey, there's something there, man. But once again, man, you're talking about a late round pick, and we're hoping that there's development there, right? You got Patrick Johnson. Patrick Johnson's a guy that, is kind of one of these weird rush linebackers / kind of joker defensive ends. He's a tweener. Milton Williams, who's his 3rd round pick, is a guy you're expecting to get some kind of, a return on your investment on. Marlon Tupuoleotu, who's a guy that, Big T's a guy that I really like a lot. I call him Big T because I butcher this man's last name every time.
Right.
McPherson, is young corner that we don't know if he's going to play inside or outside. I'm kind of waiting on camp to see what they do with him a little bit. Then you got a guy like another undrafted rookie free agent from the year prior, Michael Jaquette, right? Then you got, Sean Bradley, who was a 6th round pick a couple of years ago. You got Davion Taylor, who was a late 3rd round pick, really almost a 4th round pick, but it was a compensatory 3rd selection. That hasn't really logged any real meaningful snaps in the NFL. And he's a long-term developmental guy, to be honest, too. Yeah. Kayvon Wallace is a guy that played out of position last year. He was a free, and I'm not saying he did play any free in college, but he was primarily a strong safety in college. So we got to see where he's at. You know what I mean? Like when you look at these guys, Josiah Scott and Jacoby Stevens and Raekwon Williams, when you subtract the guys that could potentially be gone, and there's a lot of uncertainty. Like that's why I keep saying to people, like, man, getting Jalen Hurts to prove to be the franchise quarterback and keeping 3 first-round picks, it can make a retooling, rebuild, whatever you want to call it. It can really accelerate the date. Like, I mean, it could be just like what happened with Ray Rhodes, where Ray Rhodes went immediately to the playoffs and became coach of the year. It can be what happened with, Andy Reid, where Andy Reid had one down year and then took us right back to the playoffs. It can be what we saw from, Chip Kelly. He had 2 solid years. One year he put us right back into the playoffs. And, Doug Peterson hoisted a Lombardi trophy his 2nd year. So there are a few common, threads when it comes to Jeffrey Lurie and the coaches he hires. Not one of those guys were ever a head coach before. So there's a trend there, right? All of them were a little bit outside. I would say Ray Rhodes was probably the safest pick out of all those guys in terms of like the coaching circles. I mean, Andy Reid, you and I are old enough to remember when he got hired. A lot of people were scratching their head at that one, like, who? Why? Yeah. Like, Doug Peterson, we know the craziness that was around the Doug Peterson hiring. I think Chip Kelly had a little bit more fanfare around his hiring. I don't think that one was as contentious as some of the other ones, but when you look at those things, they've always been fairly quick turnarounds. So like the rebuild process was almost immediate, and they were all first-year coaches. And it's interesting the situation we find ourselves in with the first-year head coach that a lot of people probably didn't have on their radar, and now you got a roster that's probably going to be turned around quite drastically within the next year or two.
Yes. Yeah, because I was thinking, we were talking about that too. If Flex doesn't come up and play a dominating season this year, a lot of people see him leaving, maybe get him on a trade or something just to get rid of that contract, and free up some more cap space. We're getting rid of Zach Ertz, Barnett. If he doesn't, I really think Barnett might lose out this year to Sweat. Sweat I see as a player where it took his first couple of years for him to really get healthy. And as we seen him come in last year, he seemed pretty healthy last year, and he came in and did some big things for us on the defensive line.
Yeah. When I look at Josh Sweat, it's a complex situation because Josh Sweat still does have that degenerative knee condition. I do think that he's done some things to strengthen the lower body that maybe it was not quite as bad as some of the draft analysts made it out to be, during his draft, his draft class. With that said, though, this is not a guy that you're going to hand 60 snaps a game to, not consistently, because you will wear him out if you do that. He will be out of the league very fast if you do that. So he's always going to be a guy that's a little bit on a pitch count. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that could still impact, even if he's on a pitch count, it could still impact Derek Barnett. I mean, you don't need to pay a guy, top-notch money if you're not certain that, if that guy's going to be it.
Jackson or one of the other rookies does develop pretty good, maybe by the middle of the season to where they can actually contribute good enough to, earn their way onto the team, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, absolutely, man. You're right. And it's a little crazy, but it's going to be an interesting situation there with the defensive line and what they decide to do. Because like I said, man, a lot of these guys are coming due. 2022 is going to be a very interesting offseason. This offseason was already crazy with, I was telling people, like, I kept saying, I got a feeling, guys, we're going to go over $50 million in dead money.
Right.
Right now, they got me sitting as a liar because we're at $49 million, unless something happens with Ertz. Something happens with Ertz, then I'm right. And we eclipsed $50 million in debt. But, I said it early on. It was right around the Week 17 game against Washington. I made a few videos, guys, where I really went over the cap situation. I gave you guys some predictions. I gave you the names of guys that would be in consideration. Some people I don't think quite understood what I was saying. I was never
Right.
advocating that every player is going to be cut. I'm just saying, here's the list of contracts. Here's the cap situation. Some of these guys won't be back. It's just
Right.
That's just facts. Like some of these guys won't be back. And you know what? Moving Carson Wentz probably saved a lot of guys, to be
Yeah.
honest. You know, it sucks because we took a big, expensive, cap hit there. We really did. I mean, that was wasn't really a cap hit for us. It was a dead money hit. So, I mean, we're basically paying money for a guy to play on another team. I mean, that kind of is factual. I mean, I'll agree with that. That's kind of a factual circumstance of the whole Carson Wentz situation. But, looking back at it, I don't really know what else the front office could have done besides the things leading up to it. I'm not talking about that, guys. I'm talking about given the situation, going in the offseason, hiring a new coach. He didn't want to be here. I mean,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, I felt like given the circumstances of what happened, once that happens, he kind of made the decision for you.
Yeah. Anybody that don't want to be on our team, I think we need to get off. That's that whole thing with Ertz right now. Like he doesn't want to be here. So if he doesn't want to be here, let's free up that money and let's get him off the books. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let's move him, even if it's a late round pick, because you got to look at that $8 million bonus. If we can trade him off, is a bonus. Is kind of good for our team in general. We have some extra wiggle room to pick up another player that can contribute this year, as opposed to looking at it as like, oh man, we just got a 6th round pick or a 5th round pick or something like that. Because I don't see too many teams giving them too much for Ertz anymore. Just the way it's dragged out this far.
Yeah. A couple of really good questions I saw there.
Yeah.
Jalen. Undrafted rookie free agent making it. Let's start with Richie because this is a good one too. Steve, with Frank Clark's situation, is Derek Barnett a tradable commodity?
Oh.
Different positions though. I guess you could say that Frank Clark kind of does play some defensive end there as well. Mm-hmm. But maybe they're just looking at it from generating pressure on the quarterback and there being a need to do that. Andy Reid has history with our front office, obviously. Maybe. I think the time to trade Derek Barnett was before the $10 million got guaranteed.
Right.
I think that was the time to do it. But
I was even thinking like trading him off to Miami. In a package deal for Howard. Give him back their 1st round pick. Give him like Derek Barnett. Hell, you can give him Ertz too. Give him both of them. Ertz, Barnett, and your 1st round pick, and that should cover Howard. You know what I'm saying? We'd be able to pay him with the money free up and now solidify our defensive back.
Yeah. And Richie was asking about Dallas Goedert as well, just above that one. That's a tough one, Richie. So all these things are always, you got to look them in the lens of like you're prospecting, right? So you're banking on the future potential of any player. I do think that Dallas Goedert, if he can stay healthy, I think he can absolutely be a top 5 tight end in the NFL.
Oh yeah.
Now, if you're asking me, is the coach in me like, where does this guy need improvement on? I'll be honest with you, man. There were times on his film, his route running was absolute crap. He was responsible in that New England game back in 2019. It was, I don't know who it was, him, and it was him and a receiver. I can't remember. It might have been Jordan Matthews and him, where they were supposed to run a switch route and they basically ran into each other, and Wentz had nowhere to go with the ball because of that, because that was supposed to be the intended, route concept. And, he was on that one. I mean, he's got to get better as a route runner, but I mean, physically, the physical, what I'm saying? The physical makeup of the player, it's just really, really hard to find guys like that, man. I mean, like there's only a few dudes in the league that are built like he is, man, that have like, like 83-inch wingspans and crazy 35, 36-inch arm lengths and like can physically have that kind of target to present to a quarterback. You know what I mean? Like you're going to prospect off of what the possibilities could be as a player that gets developed. I mean, that's kind of the cop-out answer, man, to be honest. I'm copping out on it, but that's truly the answer. That's truly the answer.
Yeah. I think he has a chance to be at least in top 5 if everything, if Jalen's doing what he has to do, the offense is rolling good. All of our star players, I feel like this could be big years for all of them because they all have something to prove.
Yeah,
Devontae has to prove that he's not just this little twig that's just going to get punked by every CB out there. You know what I'm saying? Rager's trying to prove that, picking Justin Jefferson wasn't going to be a better option. He is the man.
yeah,
You got Miles Sanders got to prove if he actually gets the ball, he can do big things and be an elite running back. Jalen Hurts got to prove that Carson trade wasn't, a bad decision for the Eagles. They all have like her what we just talked about. Goddard has to prove that Ertz,
sure.
that Ertz is not a bad decision for us. So they all have a chip on their shoulder. I feel like this could possibly bring out the best of them this year.
Nikki, I saw your question. I'm not sure on that one. I'm not too sure, Nikki, to be honest. If it happened, it must have been at a camp cut down to where they were going to intend to re-sign him with the expanded roster stuff. I don't know, though. I mean, it's pretty rare to see a third-round pick get cut. Normally, no matter how bad their camp is and stuff, they normally keep them on the roster. But I'd have to, honestly, Nikki, I'd have to look into it.
We're talking about Davion Taylor?
I believe so. I think it's who she's talking about.
I thought he was still on the team.
I thought so too, but it could have been one that slipped my mind. All right, Jalen with a difficult question, of course. All right, Jalen. Couple of things that I saw here. So we'll start with this one. Even if Hurts isn't a top end guy, we should at least give Hurts 2 seasons because we have to fill the rest of the roster with young talent. Quarterback should be the one of the final pieces, like Denver. That certainly is a way you could take it. I agree that's certainly a way you can take it. I generally tend to agree just because we have so many pieces that could potentially need to be replaced. I think if you were in a different situation, then of course, like you probably make a different decision based upon that, right? Like if you really love one of these quarterbacks that could become available, prior to the season ending, you probably put together a package to go get them, right? If you really like one of these quarterbacks in the draft, you probably make your way up the board to go snag one of them. The Eagles had their eye on a couple of guys this year. They couldn't get in the position to get the guys that they wanted. And they said trade back. I thought that in that situation, Jalen, I kind of agree with you. You kind of sealed your fate in that moment for probably the next 2 years. I'm not going to say it's a 100% there. I mean, they can, Howie is free to probably do, and Jeffrey is free to do whatever they want to do. But I would guess that more than likely that would be the outcome of that as well. Gate, which undrafted free agent do you have your eye on to watch in camp or even possibly make the roster? Hey, man, this really backfired on me last year when I successfully called out my camp prediction of being a camp star and Michael Jacquet. And then to my surprise, he ended up becoming a starter, which was not something I was envisioning. I was just going off the man's film and said that he's got enough talent to make the roster. I'll tell you a couple of names, Jalen, because I don't have the answer completely to that one. But Awosiki, I have no clue how you say this young man's name. The guard / tackle from Buffalo. He's a guy I would keep my eyes on that might surpass or supplant somebody on this roster, even though we're probably trending towards a very healthy offensive line. I would still keep my eye there just because I feel like if we go heavy at any position, it's probably going to be O-line. Some other names. I won't do the Graylin Arnolds and I won't do those guys because they were last year. So let me just take a look and see what I could say. I mean, you could say Jaquan Bailey, who's I don't think he's going to make the roster, Jalen, to be quite honest, just because we already have 4 guys and then you got 2 guys you drafted that you're going to probably play around with some way of getting them on the roster, but you never know, man. I mean, all it takes is one injury. If Teron Jackson gets injured in camp or, I don't want to project anyone getting injured, guys, just knock on wood with that one. One of our young pass rushers, like a Patrick Johnson or Teron Jackson, ends up getting hurt. Then, yes, a guy I think like Jaquan Bailey could slip his way onto the roster. Nate Maters, I mean, you could kind of cop out with that one and say like he's got previous experience. He was technically, I believe, an undrafted rookie free agent, but it wasn't this year, so it's probably not qualifying to what you're asking me. I would probably say the guard tackle from Buffalo, and then Jaquan Bailey would probably be the next guy I would have pretty high on that list. Trayvon Grimes would have probably had a really legit shot if he was healthy, but
Yes.
it didn't quite work out that way with him. I'm still, you know what I'm saying? Like it's a difficult situation because like I thought Jamie Newman could have easily been the Eagles' third quarterback.
Right.
I definitely thought that he made a ton of sense, but look, they wanted to me, they wanted a guy that they feel like could run a West Coast offense and could stay on schedule. And that's why they made the moves that they made. And I mean, look, if it works out, no one will care. But I definitely thought that Jamie Newman could have been a guy that would have probably made it as a back end third quarterback / kind of practice squad guy if you didn't want to carry three quarterbacks. I mean, I thought he was a really good developmental guy. I thought he was a guy that is very similar to Jalen Hurts. They're not a 1-for-1 comparison. Jalen Hurts is a much more effective runner, but Jamie Newman is still a pretty good running quarterback. He's very strong. The guy's got a rocket for an arm, but I don't, look, I don't know what they saw from the guy in the small amount of time they had him in the camp. So it may just been that he had too much to learn and maybe just wasn't picking up the concepts. It's hard to say, guys, without me being present, but I definitely thought Jamie Newman would have had a good shot as well. But two of the guys I thought would have had a great shot, one got cut, one guy got cut because of injury. So
you think we could pick Grimes back up later?
You
think we could pick Grimes back up later, maybe once after he gets healed up and give him another
potentially.
shot?
Yeah, that's a potential signing situation. I could. I mean, he's got, obviously he knows Brian Johnson. Brian Johnson was his offensive coordinator at Florida. So Brian Johnson's who convinced him to come here in the first place. So, I mean, yeah, I think that's always there.
Yeah. Well,
like got it a lot, but doesn't have a lot of pop behind him.
Huh. I
guess it depends on what you mean by that. I mean, I think he's a solid run defender. But I mean, if you mean like, I don't know, I'd probably have to have you expand upon that, Jalen, what you mean by that. What do you mean like pop behind him? Like, I thought he has a lot of pop behind him. I just think that his ball security is suspect when he tries to give someone that pop, to be honest.
Taylor didn't get cut. Philly
Fan D said Hurts has this year to prove it with draft capital we got. Yeah, we're not projecting what we think's going to happen. We're just talking about from our perspective. Like, we would probably give Jalen, unless it was really, really bad, we would probably give Jalen Hurts 2 years to kind of see what we got in this quarterback and build the roster around him before pursuing and chasing the quarterback situation. I have no clue what they're going to do, Philly Fan D. I mean, Howie's pretty unpredictable in those type of things.
Yeah. Howie do anything.
Yeah.
Let's see.
He is competition for Herbig or a stash guy. Yeah, I think so too, Jalen. I think he's got, like I said, I don't know how to pronounce that young man's name. I probably should hit him up on Twitter or something and get him to try to come on and tell us how to say his name, man. Because I don't even know where to start on that. I don't know where to start on his name. But the kid from Buffalo, yeah, man, I like this film a lot, man. He's a really good run blocker. He punished dudes. I don't know if he got to the second level as well as I would, as you would want, but definitely his initial blocks, man, he was pancaking dudes.
Right. And I like our depth kind of right where we're at on the offensive line right now. It's looking pretty solid. Because those young guys got to get some playing time last year when all the stars got hurt. And some of them like Jack Driscoll, Herbig, they all kind of Roth came in and played some good football, from time to time in there.
Yeah. Philly Fan D. What do you mean the Hurts trade? Define what you mean by like a Hurts trade. I'm not too sure what you mean by that one.
Okay, because we didn't trade, we drafted him.
Oh, would I have drafted Jalen Hurts? So like given knowing the circumstances of events. Boy. That's a tough one, Philly. That Philly Fan D, that's a tough one, man. Probably yes. In the moment of building the franchise, probably not. I probably would have gotten another piece defensively or another piece for Wentz to throw the ball to or something. Looking back on having the benefit of hindsight now and knowing the fact that I'm not 100% sure that it was the Jalen Hurts pick that broke the relationship with Carson Wentz. I certainly think it played a role, but I think there was a lot more behind the scenes. Clearly. I mean, Hurts was never really a threat to Wentz with the contract. Now, I got Wentz's frustration because the minute you drafted a guy like Jalen Hurts in the second round, it's not necessarily an immediate threat to your job. But I would have also, as a quarterback, I would have questioned the likelihood of me getting that third contract from the organization. That seemed like there was a limited window of time now, and you basically staked that claim on me when you did that. But I don't think there was any immediate threat. I think that was all in the media, and that was all in Carson's head. The simple facts is that you're not going to sit a dude that's making $30-some million on the bench. It ain't happening. That's not going to happen. It doesn't matter how much better the other guy is. It's not going to happen. There's no front office in the world that's going to okay that.
And that's what I was saying, man. You just got paid $30 million. You shouldn't have been worried about nobody. Yeah. And then, coming back in, you kept getting hurt back-to-back years, injuries. You know what I'm saying? We couldn't keep paying all that money to backup quarterbacks and give you the $30 million. So that was a safe way to have a, decent backup to be behind you without the Eagles having to really worry about paying someone big-time money. And I think...
Yeah, I agree. You're 100% right, man. And Philly Fan D, I'll be honest with you, man. Like, I don't know what was going on, but there is something was going on between the coaching staff, the quarterback, the front office. Like, something was happening, man. And I don't know that we ever really got the real story. Something was happening there that accelerated this situation. Because it was the craziest thing I ever saw for the Eagles to make that decision, played Hurts out the last 4 games of the year, and then immediately had reverted back and committed, even though they didn't commit, they committed to Wentz, and he still won it out. I mean, come on, Philly Fan D, you know I was a huge Wentz guy. I still think Wentz has the talent when he's on his game of a top 5 quarterback. But the guy I saw unfold last year in Philadelphia was not a franchise quarterback. He just wasn't.
Started unfolding after the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I felt like after the Super Bowl, he kept trying to win the Super Bowl on every throw. He wanted to prove that he can win the whole thing by himself. And, he kept getting hurt and that pressure. You know how it is when you're trying to come back. Maybe a couple of those times he came back too soon, trying to do too much. And, and unraveled for him.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm excited to see, like, I'll get into some more conversations, but there are some things I would love to see the Eagles do with Jalen Hurts now, because Jalen Hurts is a true dual threat quarterback. Carson Wentz was an athletic guy that played better outside the pocket than he did, inside the pocket, but he was never really a dual threat. I mean, you can argue a little bit in 2017. He showed some of that ability, but past 2017, he was never really that guy. He was always good outside the pocket, but he wasn't really a true dual threat. I'm excited to see what they do there. Now I'll get into some conversation about 8-man boxes and what I saw happen with Jalen Hurts in the game, but we can get into that a little bit later, guys.
In that 650, Jalen's getting stronger. Not gonna be a lot of one-arm tackles there, one-arm sats there. He's gonna be running some people over.
Jalen, I lost you, man. You said, do you think that Avante? I think your keyboard got away from you, buddy. Hang on, I see it now. Do you think that Avante and Quentin Michaels pander? You talking about Jason Avant and Quentin Michaels? Quentin McKell? Jalen, are you talking about Jason Avant and Quentin Michaels? Or Quentin McKell? Quentin McKell. I keep saying Michaels. Quentin McKell? Is that what you're referring to? I don't really want to take shots at him, man, because I'm a fan of both of theirs. But Big Play Slay, what's good, my guy? He said, I got a question for Steve. So when in doubt, Ertz had a good 2018, but at that point was his best season. Would you have traded him at his all peak? All right, 500 is not here to hear this. So me and 500 had an argument backstage on Brunt's live stream one time. We weren't really arguing. We just, we had different perspectives on it. 500 wanted to trade Ertz last year. I did not. Given the benefit of hindsight and knowing what was going to happen in 2019 with the rib injury that was going to devalue Ertz, and then having that difference with the organization and him just basically saying, I'm not going to risk my body if you're not going to commit to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
big play play. I mean, there's no way around that. Yeah, that would have been the correct action. You're absolutely right. You should have traded him at the height. You already had a young tight end that was behind him. You had, yeah. I mean, look, just make it easy. Yes, yeah, absolutely. Oh boy, another Philly 500 conspiracy theory. Do you think Wentz gaining too much weight before the 2020 offseason impacted on why he played so bad? I don't think Wentz gained weight. I think that's 500 trying to be funny. Wentz balked up, man. He was hitting weights. He wasn't working with his private quarterback coaches as often as he should have been in the 2020 season, but he hit the weight room and he got bigger. The question being is that whether it's fat, muscle, it really doesn't matter. Did it constrict the throwing motion? I don't know, man. What I saw wasn't a constriction of throwing motion. What I saw was just poor footwork. That's what I saw. I saw horrendous footwork.
I mean, think more mental with Carson. I think he's still gifted. You know, I think he's gonna have a great season this year, possibly. You know, but he was mentally destroyed on the Eagles. You know, by the end of that thing, he was done. He couldn't handle that no more.
Yeah, and then we got okay, so Jalen said, yeah, he's talking about when you say pander, like what do you mean? Do you mean like do they sometimes give into the popular opinion if whether they agree with it or not? Is that what you mean? If that's what you're saying, Jalen, just let me know in the comment section. I don't want to say it without like having exact examples, but have I felt that way about them at times? Yes, but I still think that the quality of the content that they provide is top notch. Might they pander to things that they know are probably a little incorrect? Yeah, probably so. But I don't like doing that unless I have like a clear example I can give. If you're going to throw shade at somebody, you know what I'm saying, you should probably say. And I'm a big, I'm a big Jason Avant fan. Quentin Michael is definitely one of my, favorite Eagles players as well. But also, we got to keep in mind they do work for a quasi network. It's not really a network, but it is a network. It's an up and coming, rising network with Motion and Cap. And to be honest, I find Cap and Mosh to be more I think their integrity holds up more than some of the other guys, to be quite honest. From the bigger pundits, if you will. I think that they know that there's a line you shouldn't cross, and they try to speak very factually. So, yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm not going to get you in trouble, man. I don't know him, Jalen. It's not like I know him. I mean, big play Slay. I think you have a point when it comes to eluding the pass rush. The bigger you are, that means there's more mass to grab and drag you down. And Carson Wentz has always had that little head duck thing that he does. And he got caught quite a bit last year with that head duck. And one can argue that you might be bigger and you might be stronger, but you also are never going to be as big as strong as a defensive end or a defensive tackle. And now they've got more area to grab and pull you down. So, I mean, sure, I can understand that maybe there were some plays in the past he would have slipped and ducked those, made a play outside of the pocket. But because he added the bulk to his frame, he couldn't elude the pass rush like that. I could see that point, yeah. You never know when you cross paths. Hey, man, I would be happy for them to remember I said some crazy off-the-wall stuff if we ever cross paths, because that means I was clearly on their radar. But I doubt it.
Right. So let's get into who we want to play CB2. Do you want to stick with the Young Bucks? Do you want to pick up, one of these, trade for one of these CBs like Howard, Gilmore, or do you want to get a guy like Steven Nelson?
Boy. I'm in favor of going with a younger guy, and not necessarily through trade. I was okay with Garyon Conley or an Artie Burns taking a chance on the guy that has had injuries but is still a young corner and has shown promise at some point in their career. Linking them with a guy like Jonathan Gannon, and then seeing where that took us. I don't think that's going to happen. If I had to take a guess, I think they're just waiting for the stars to line up with Steven Nelson, and that's where they're going to go. Steven Nelson is clearly the second best corner on this football team the minute he touches the field.
Yeah.
I don't even think that's a debate. But my biggest fear, and I did a video on Steven Nelson, but immediately I was a little concerned with the fact that he was asking for number one cornerback money. But when I went back and I paid attention to the game he played against Buffalo, because, you know, I always say, give me you at your worst. Let me see the film and I'll know what I'm getting. Okay. Mm-hmm. I don't want to see you at your best. I want to see what the bottom looks like. Mm-hmm. And what I saw was the bottom look like is a guy that plays the upper half of receivers, and he got caught with double moves frequently in that game. Mm-hmm. Now he fought. I'll give Steven Nelson this, man. He's a fighter. He fights back to the football. He's not afraid to come up and stick somebody. Immediately he becomes the second best cornerback on the football team. Question is at what cost? You know, I said in my video, if it was under $6 million, I was in. Mm-hmm. If it was over $6 million, I was out. But then I had conversations with a few people. I want to say it was like Vic 3 and a couple of the other guys kind of hit me up. Might have been 2020. It was a few of you guys. And you were saying, right, Gabe, but are you sure the numbers you're not quoting aren't from like 2016? And I was like, you know what? They might have a point because the cornerback market does keep going up. So maybe I am being unrealistic at 6 million or under. And maybe now CB2 money is getting to $8 to $10 million. I don't know. That's a fair question.
Like people are saying, Steven Nelson's he's a good CB, but like a guy like Howard is an elite, great CB. Yeah. You know, he led the league 2 years, bro, and he's still pretty young. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, if money wasn't an issue, if money's not the issue, then Xavier Howard is the better player. Mm-hmm. To me, that's not even like, he's more physically gifted. He's just a better player. Mm-hmm. But, you know, you do have to take on his contract. I'm not saying the Eagles can't take on the contract, but they would be tying up a ton of money at cornerback. And it's something we haven't seen, but new coaching staff. So, I mean, maybe the front office feels differently. You know, maybe the front office will feel differently with a new coaching staff that maybe can, stress the importance of secondary play.
And what about even like, you know, where we got these training camp sessions with the Patriots, you know, getting a good look at Gilmore, maybe trading for Gilmore for like maybe a 2 to 3 year deal, you know, just to get us over the hump. Maybe I was like, you get Gilmore, you put him with Big Slay.
Yeah.
Then you
healthy
also
Gilmore, a healthy Gilmore, a healthy Slay with McPherson, with Maddox, probably Josiah Scott, probably one of the better secondaries, one of the better cornerback rooms in the league at that point. That I definitely think
you
so.
might not even have to give the Patriots a first round.
But Gilmore, Gilmore is over 30. You do have to question the health, but when he's healthy and he's on the field, I mean,
shut down.
There's not many guys that are going to come in and immediately become CB number 1. In that situation, I think that makes Slay CB number 2. I think so? Gilmore would probably make Slay CB number 2. I mean, I think Gilmore is that good when healthy.
Like I always say, they need to look at it as like 1A, 1B. Like back in the day when we had Bobby Taylor, Troy Vincent, Lito Shepard, Sheldon Brown, Al Harris, Asante Samuels, like all those type guys. They were both 2 good cornerbacks with 2 different skill sets, usually back in those times. But they were both like starting caliber quarterbacks. Hell, I think some of them both go to the Pro Bowl a couple of those years too. Yeah,
that's a good point. I mean, I like him a lot, man. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, Gilmore to me he's going to be the best that you're going to really find. I mean, given the circumstances of where we are right now, I just don't know that. I have no clue what the Patriots would ask, and that's kind of a tough one. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm taking that maybe part of these joint practices. How he wants to get a good look at him. Let me see how you doing there,
Jalen. Boy, as much as it hurts me, I would consider that. I would consider that trade. We're talking about a 23, 24-year-old defensive tackle on the rise. You already drafted another guy that you're going to move around the line as a 3, maybe a nose in some situations, or as a defensive end 5 technique in others. You already spent money on Javon Hargrave. You got Ryan Kerrigan here, Sweat, Barnett. I would consider it. And that's not easy to say, man, because you're talking about Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox being, wall of honor Eagle guys. I mean, let's just be real. These are guys that are going to potentially have their numbers retired in Philadelphia. If I'm taking out the emotions of being a fan of these two guys, yeah, man. I think if you're playing it as a GM, yeah, man, you're talking about a young stud pass rusher.
Yeah.
He's an interior pass rusher, but still. I have another question for Steve. In comparison, where would you rank the Eagles' offense compared to other offenses, and where would you rank them? Oof. Big play Slay, man. I'm not really a ranking guy. I'll say until proven otherwise. I'm going to say that we are in. I would put the NFL into 3 tiers. Okay. I would say the Eagles would be at the top of tier 3, 24, 26 range until proven otherwise. I do like Jalen Hurts, although look, is Jalen Hurts at his best from the pocket Carson Wentz? No, but at his worst, he's not Carson Wentz either. So you got to take that into consideration too, because we saw Carson at his worst, and it was bad. It was very bad.
You don't
if
think
Jalen works out, do I think that there are 30 quarterbacks better than Jalen Hurts? Not me personally. I know other people analyze the game, feel that way. I don't feel that way. I don't. I think that I would put him somewhere between 24 and 28 right now until I can see him. I think I'd put him ahead of any rookie right now. I mean, not that I'm saying that those rookies won't surpass him or won't be, but until they take a snap in the NFL, like, it's kind of hard to rank. You know what I mean? Like, it's just disingenuous to me to rank somebody above somebody like that. I mean, he's still young. I think you put him behind Herbert right around where you would put Tua. I think him and Tua would be pretty close together in rankings to me. I would put Burrow and Herbert from last year's draft class ahead, and I would have kind of him and Tua kind of right there with each other. They both have a lot of questions, I think, to answer.
Yeah, another one from Big Play.
Okay, he says, do you think Jeffrey Lurie is more of the problem than Howie Roseman, Steve? Trying to get my phone tapped, man. Yeah, I do. I do. I think he's meddling. I think he's always meddled, but I think it's one of those situations where you have to know when you're meddling too much and you're becoming a detriment, and you got to back out a little bit. I'm not saying, it's your team. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying not to have any involvement, but you got to know when you're becoming a detriment, when you're hurting the team. And I think he did. So I think he needs to take a step back for a little bit, get some guys to come in and, analyze. And then, then you slowly work your way back into being more involved with stuff. Me and Gilmore are healthy would make a dynamic duo. Got a couple more years, Slay. Ooh, bang for buck. Do you think Maddox should be starting safety 3 versus starting nickel? Yeah, butt McPherson inside, or play Josiah Scott inside, and then absolutely, especially to begin the season. To begin the season with McLeod. I call it, man. I did it again. Thank God, Fresh and him not here to hear that. I used to do that a lot when we first started the Battle Birds podcast. I used to call him McDouble, all kinds of stuff. But with him being out, you know what I'm saying? Like, potentially being out to begin the season. Yeah. I mean, Jalen, you got a point, man. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
We've all been saying Kelsey's name wrong. Remember, Travis came on and said, my name is Kels, but I just go with Kelsey.
I do too. I still call him Kelsey.
All right.
Who on this roster will be the designated tight end matchup on defense? Oof. If you're in big nickel, well, I mean, it's a great question, man. Kavon Wallace, if you're in big nickel, would be a natural strong, I think. I would rather have Anthony Harris roving as the free, Kayvon playing a little bit more as the strong. When McLeod comes back, you can definitely use Kayvon a little bit more in that role. Maddox is, he's not the tallest guy, but he's definitely a guy that understands what it means to stay in phase. He's just got to get better at not reading the upper half of a receiver, man. He gets caught on those double moves a lot, too. I mean, he's another guy that gets taken with double moves because he's watching the upper half of receivers too much. The other guy they'll probably give run there would be like Eric Wilson. Eric Wilson will probably get that, but he's going to play the will, I think, to start out, so it won't be Eric Wilson. So you're looking at like an Alex Singleton, probably.
You don't think that's
maybe Jacoby Stevens?
Yeah,
maybe Jacoby Stevens.
I think that's like a prime spot for him to actually get some PT as a rookie.
Would you trade for Xavier Howard? If money wasn't an issue, sure. With the money situation, you gotta play out the money. I have to see, I mean, what are we offering? I mean, is it going to cost us multiple? Is it going to cost pick a multiple day 2 picks? What's the, are we going to have to give up other, assets in return, like an Ertz to get him under contract? Like, it just depends on the package, right? I mean, if money and all that stuff wasn't an issue, of course, sure.
I was going to ask you on Howard, how awesome do you think it is that he got 10 picks last year? Do you think that's pretty sick? Like, I couldn't really think of the last CB to get 10 picks in a season.
Oh, it's ball hawk. I mean, it's straight ball hawk status, man. If you're taking double-digit INTs, I mean, that's straight ball hawk.
Right.
It's probably why he's having the issues right now with the Dolphins, because they've drafted 101 defensive backs, and he probably feels like, hey, man, where's my respect?
And that Jones getting paid more than him, right?
Yeah. I mean, Xavier Howard, well, yeah, you're probably right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Byron Jones probably is. And Byron Jones has never really been. So, yeah, this is the second time. So, Xavier Howard put up 7 interceptions in 2018. So, this is the second time he's really had those big numbers.
Yeah.
Byron Jones has never been an INT guy. He's a man lockdown corner that doesn't really play the ball. He plays the player. He'll get in there for some PBUs, but he's not really going to take the ball away. So, yeah, I mean, Xavier Howard, man, I probably feel a certain way too if I were him. Yeah. Yeah, man, because, like, look, Byron Jones is not a pushover. He's a good corner, but creating turnovers is valuable.
That's what you're supposed to do at that position,
Yeah. Does it trouble you that Kayvon is small? I don't know, man. You know how it is. Jalen always got a warm spot in my heart for the little guys. I'm not a big dude myself. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a big guy. You know what I'm saying? A guy like, Boston Scott, coming and coming off the practice squad and sticking around. You know what I'm saying? It's a feel-good story for us, 5'10" and under guys, man. You know what I'm saying? When you're in the 5'10" and under club, we got to root for these type of dudes, man.
Right.
I mean, look, on a tight end that's 6'5", like on a Dallas Goedert, a guy that's 6'5" with an 83-inch freaking wingspan and 36-inch, arm reach. Yeah, like it's a simple matter of playing basketball and playing in the post. Like,
right,
Big's gonna win. Big's gonna win in that situation. There's no doubt about it. If he gets body positioning, it's all over. Do I think that he plays soft because of his size? And I know you're not insinuating that, Jalen, but
no,
I don't think that's a concern. But I don't know, man. I don't know what to make of him, Jalen. He hasn't really been on the field. It's hard, you know what I'm saying? Like, the only time he really got playing time was in replacement of Rodney McLeod, and that was playing free safety, which really wasn't his spot in college. So, I mean, I just don't know that we've seen him in his natural positioning yet. So, I don't know, Jalen. I mean, I guess we'll get some answers in camp because he's going to have to get some run time with Dallas. And by the way, Richard Rodgers is not a small man either.
No.
As a big tight end. Non-fan answer. Do you think, how are you going to qualify it like that? Do you think Miles Sanders' value as a running back is worth a top 5 at the position extension? No. Absolutely not.
I think it will be season.
Top 5, no. No, but are we going to pay him that? Maybe.
You think he can get there at the end of the season, getting the ball this year? He's got all
I
the
mean,
times he passed last year.
if he breaks like 1,200 plus yards, then probably. I guess the question you have to really ask yourself is that can he become the receiving threat and can he pass block? Can he start becoming a pass pro? Because what I see is a guy that is keeping Boston Scott on the roster because he kind of had a letdown with his hands. And then we had to go re-sign back Jordan Howard and then sign Kerryon Johnson for pass pro because those two are really good pass pro backs. Mm-hmm. Until Miles can prove that his game is rounded, is well rounded. No, Jalen. I don't think I would pay him that high, man. I really don't.
I think it turned more to just a pure running back. I think that's kind of why we got Gainwell, to kind of handle more of the passing situations for the running back. Let him handle more of the running. Him and, a bigger back like Kerryon or Howard, whichever way they want to play that. How do you see that running back room shaping out? Miles is a starter. Who do you think?
All right, that's a great question.
Third.
That's a really, really good question. Truthfully, I don't know. But if I had to go on record today, without seeing camp, without seeing anything, before I say this, everyone, please understand this. I am a huge Jordan Howard fan. I don't think he's making it right now. As of right now, I don't think he's making it. I think it would be Miles Sanders, Kerryon Johnson, Kenneth Gainwell, Boston Scott. It's probably the 4 guys I think would probably take the spots. Do I think there's opportunity for steals? Absolutely. What's the difference? Look at a guy like Boston Scott. Look at a guy like Kenneth Gainwell. Mm-hmm. I mean, Kenneth Gainwell is not exactly a pass pro guy. Neither is Boston Scott, but they're both pretty good receiving backs. Boston Scott's probably a little better at this point running between the tackles, but Kenneth Gainwell is explosive. Then you look at a guy like Jason Huntley and Adrian Killins and Kenneth Gainwell. Mm-hmm. Man, the Eagles have been looking for this type of running back for a while because all 3 of those guys are kind of similar. They might be a little bit different physically, but their game is pretty similar in what they do. I would go with those 4, but I would definitely say that a guy like, if a guy like Huntley or a guy like, Adrian Killins or, Jordan Howard just has a phenomenal – Jordan Howard probably having the better chance of those guys, but if they end up having like a phenomenal camp, I could see it. I know Liam Jenkins. No shot at you, Liam. I know that you're really, really high on Elijah Holyfield. Yeah. I'm gonna say that's a big negative for me. I think if it was going to happen, he would have already cracked the rotation at this point.
And I had your list too, but I also was another. We were talking about this in another podcast, and we were thinking, what if it is Miles Sanders, Kerryon Johnson, Gainwell, and Howard, just for the simple fact you got 2 smaller guys and 2 power guys, just in case anybody gets banged up, or just to keep the pounding at the end of the game when you need to run out the game. You have 2 pounders to go back to back on there.
Yeah. So Jalen, boy. All right. I got to walk this through in a way that people can understand pass pro, Jalen. You're going to have an insight over people because you've played offense. You played offensive line and you've played defensive line. When you're a running back, you have to understand the assignments and you have to be able to scan the field in pass pro, especially on third down and third down where there's a passing situation to where you're not a primary target and you're there to pick up an extra guy. You have to scan correctly. Boston Scott and Miles Sanders were particularly bad at it last year. This is where Kerryon Johnson and Jordan Howard excel. They're really good pass pro backs. This is an area of the game that will definitely make you not be a 3-down back. Because if I can't trust you to keep my quarterback clean, that's a problem. He's got to work there. He's got to learn. And you know a little bit more about what I'm talking about, Jalen. I think sometimes there's a misunderstanding of when the blocking assignment gets changed at the line when Kels? How do you say? Kels. Yeah. I'm gonna call you Kels now, Kels. Yeah. when he audibles the blocking assignments and he has a slide, I do think there are times where Miles Sanders and Boston Scott have no clue where their responsibility is. They go the wrong place with the responsibility. That definitely popped out on the film to me about those guys. Um,
But do you think because the line
Birdgang,
was weird itself, some of that
yeah.
had to do with the line not, maybe not going in the right. He might been going to the right place, but it's a backup in there, not going to the
Um,
right hole.
on certain occasions, that could certainly be the issue. Birdgang 31, no doubt about it. But there were a few plays in particular, like week one. If you watch Boston Scott,
Mm-hmm.
there's a reason why Kerrigan was eaten, and it was Boston Scott. It was Boston Scott really. Um, Boston Scott made a couple. It wasn't the line. It wasn't the offensive line. Now there was one play in particular I would have to have a guy like Jalen sit down and look at and tell me his perspective as an offensive lineman, what he thinks the call was. There was one play in particular. It could have been Driscoll. Driscoll, being the rookie, could have made a mistake, and it caused
Mm-hmm.
Boston Scott to look bad. But it happens so frequently on the film.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it has to be the running backs not knowing how to scan the field correctly. The other area is 8-man boxes. So one thing I was kind of looking at, guys, is that on the season, Miles Sanders only finished ahead of like 4 guys versus 8-man boxes. The league just did not respect the Eagles' running game, and they only committed 9% of plays with Miles Sanders with an 8-man box. So to put that in perspective, when you are on offense, and Jalen, you know what I'm saying here, man. You always want to be +1 in the running game offensively. Okay. This is why a mobile quarterback can be a nightmare for defenses. This is why a guy like Lamar Jackson can be a nightmare. This is why a Jalen Hurts could be a nightmare, right? Is that if you can get +1 with a good physical running back as well, you're going to normally get the numbers on the defense, right? But with Carson Wentz in there, it was 9% on the season. Okay, they didn't do enough, and defenses didn't respect us, and they didn't play 8-man boxes on us. Now, week 14, New Orleans didn't know what to expect, so they went up to 14%. So right there, we see a 5% increase. That's significant, guys, in football when you see a 5% increase. Week 16, Arizona knew what to expect, knew that Jalen Hurts was in the game, and they increased to 17.65%. I'm only counting when Miles Sanders is in the game, guys, because that's the only data I can see. I can't see Jalen Hurts 8-man boxes. I'd have to do it myself.
Is that going in with carries too? Is that like breaking down like how many carries he actually got?
He had 14 carries in week 14. He had 17 carries in week 15. Week 16, he had 15 carries. Week 17, he didn't play. So he goes from 9% on the season to 14% in week 14 to 17.65. And then we get to the Dallas game. And I looked this over with Boston Scott too. Dallas couldn't stop the run and didn't try to stop the run last year. I don't know what happened, but they played absolutely no 8-man boxes versus Miles Sanders or Jalen Hurts or against Carson and Boston Scott. And they knew they couldn't stop the run, but I also think they had a hunch that the Eagles wouldn't commit to the run. And that's unfortunate. I know Dallas has very fast-flowing linebackers, and they can do some things that other teams can't do. So they can depend upon the speed of their linebacker play to keep a guy like Jalen Hurts contained a little bit. And I think that's what happened in that game. They went to a Tampa 2. They ran that Mike right down the seams. They played a Tampa 2, tightened up the throwing windows on Jalen, and then made their linebackers basically they had a spy on Jalen. But when you really look at the numbers, man, no one feared us for 8-man boxes. This is where I think Jalen Hurts can turn the tide on that, right? He can make them commit to 8-man boxes. He might be saying, Gabe, why do we want them to play more people in the box? Because it opens up the rest of the offense. It'll open up the rest of the offense for play action and stuff like that. And you're asking me why play action? Why is that significant? Because when you look at Jalen Hurts' numbers for passing concepts, he was 18 of 27, which is a 66.7% completion rate, 293 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions off of play action last year. By far, outside of just throwing screen passes, most effective. So if you can bring 8-man boxes up on you, right, you can do that. Then you have to get into the aspects of what do you do when you get an opponent like Washington who has a good defensive line and won't commit to the run like that because they trust their D-line, kind of like the Eagles, right? Or you get to a team like Dallas that has a really fast-flowing linebackers, so they'll supplement it that way against the mobile quarterback. That's when Jalen Hurts has to play on schedule. He's got to learn how to play on schedule within the offense. Like if they speed you up and if they bring pressure instead of trying to run, You got to know where the outlet is. You got to know where the ball's got to be. And it's things like that that'll dictate the success here.
And the
And it
coaching.
has a lot to do with Miles Sanders and his running back committee. They got to be able to pick up the blitzes to keep Hurts clean, to have the confidence he can sit back there and get the ball out. We've got to get teams to commit to 8-man boxes to open up the offense. Like all that stuff to me is all connected. It's all connected together.
Out of the coaching, we threw the ball like 50, 60 times a game too. Doug loved to throw the ball. He didn't
absolutely.
like the ball. So, I think you seen with the Colts, they had a 3-headed monster over there, and they like to run the ball. San Diego ran the ball pretty good too. So I think we're going to be running the ball a lot more this year. So that should definitely bring in a lot of more 8-man boxes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think, so Nikki, good point. I think it definitely has to do with his namesake. I think you're right. Who's the goal line guy? They'll probably work in some packages between, believe it or not, Boston Scott is really good in the goal line. He's very, very good in the goal line. That's really where Boston Scott kind of excels more than anything is in goal line situations. But they'll also probably use the combination of Miles Sanders and Kerryon Johnson. Those guys.
Mailata, put him on
Jordan
the Mailata.
You got to really go with the jumbo package. You'll probably see some keepers from Hurts and stuff like that too, guys. That's where having a mobile quarterback and stuff like that really comes into play. We're 1+ and the other 2 are misdirections. Yeah, I hear you, man. Let's see. Can you explain the things the team did to slow down Hurts in the second half? Jesus, Jalen. Different game plans, man. They sped him up, man. They sped him up and they spied him. Jalen Hurts he was a rookie. He's a rookie that was in a very difficult situation where you had an offseason where you put in so much work. I don't think he fully understood how to read NFL defenses yet, but I think his natural gifts and abilities carried him for durations of the game. But in the second half, defensive coordinators figured it out. And, you go to the Dallas game. I think Dallas game is – because I will say that in Arizona, Jalen kept fighting, and it was close. Mm-hmm. It was close. I mean, he kept fighting there. But I'll say the Dallas game, I think, is the Dallas and the Saints game are the 2 games in the second half you saw the difference. I will say that in the Saints game, Miles Sanders and Jalen put it away. They got that one last score in that pushed us over the threshold to win that game. Mm-hmm. But what I will say is that in the Dallas game, we saw the adaptation to a Tampa 2. So you got that middle linebacker running down the field, taking away the seams, and you got tight coverage from your corners down low, and you got 2 safeties over the top. You're really squeezing the windows to throw into. You're making it difficult to process, and then they sped him up with pressure packages on third downs. And he struggled. I mean, look, I'm not going to make excuses. He clearly missed a conversion to Alshon Jeffrey on a third down that could have potentially made that game more interesting than what it was. It was when Dallas started to snatch a little momentum and we had a chance to maybe turn the tide for a second there. But it got missed. I mean, he's a rookie quarterback. Mistakes happen.
And he was playing with
it's going to happen with a rookie.
I think he was playing with the B team too. That offensive line was not what he's going to be playing behind this year.
Yeah. I mean, look, let's be honest, guys. When Jordan Mailata exited the game, when Jack Driscoll exited the game, I mean, Matt Pryor's your best tackle at this point.
Yeah.
And I thought Matt Pryor, a lot of people, there were times I felt like at right guard, Matt Pryor was a letdown last year. Surprised me, hurt me, didn't like what I saw because I was really high on Matt Pryor. But I did think that late in the season when they slid him out to tackle, I don't know if it was because of the circumstance of events. He just felt like he had to be the guy, so he just played above what it was. But I do think Matt Pryor, when you really break down the film, I thought he was better than what people think at tackle. I'm not saying that he's going to be starting over Andre Dillard or let alone Jordan Mailata or Lane Johnson or Jack Driscoll. That's not what I'm saying at all, guys. But he performed better than I thought. Then you had Brett Toth playing right tackle, which there was one play I broke down film on, guys.
Uh-oh. Kind of froze up there. He's just getting good, too. But, yeah, I think Jalen played behind the B team last year. That line was not what he's going to be playing behind. The weapons are going to be better this year. You got to take some of that with a grain of salt. Jalen should be fine this year.
All right.
There you go.
Where was I at when where did I leave off at?
Ah, man. You're talking about talk.
Oh, yeah. There was one play in particular I was breaking down. And I was breaking down like Jalen Hurts throwaways. And fourth quarter, Brett Todd literally gets lifted off his feet, thrown back into Jalen Hurts' lap. I mean, try playing quarterback like that, guys. Try playing quarterback where your right tackle is literally being thrown into you. Like, it's really difficult at that point to then say, hey, you're missing your read here. You got to go to your hot route. Like, dude, my right tackle's being bench pressed into me. Like, we got problems here. Like, it's tough, man. It's really difficult to break down a rookie quarterback with offensive line play that was that bad.
Mm-hmm.
And it was. I mean, it was. He was just, man.
But then even in those games, those first 2 games, he still broke records. First rookie to throw over for 5 and rush over 100 in both games. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Jalen, the Saints had no clue what to do. They didn't spy Hurts until it was too late. And then the guy that they were using to spy Hurts, it was a tragic flaw. He just wasn't fast enough. Their defensive ends kept losing containment. The Saints have a really specific way that they rush their ends. Jalen, you know what I'm talking about. They'll take one of their ends and he kind of comes around on the wide hook and they'll bring the other one down low. Eagles caught that. They saw where they were crashing down and they bounced it outside on options. And they were just burning the Saints. The Saints just had the exact wrong game plan to play a mobile quarterback. It's the way that they style that pass rush that all you got to do is wait for that guy to crash down too low, pull the ball back from Sanders, and then boom. If that linebacker can't set the edge, you can't get to the edge to keep you there. It's easy pickings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they layer exactly. They like to layer the rush, and it doesn't. For 99% of quarterbacks, if you're a pocket passer and you don't like to be disrupted, layering your pass rush is lethal. Like it's like if you got a Tom Brady who likes to stay in the pocket and he doesn't like to be pushed off his spot, and you layer your pass rush, it can be devastating. But when you got a guy like Jalen Hurts, he could pick you apart doing that. Or imagine a Lamar Jackson to that kind of style. Like, Lamar sees you layering your pass rush and knows that you keep crashing that one defensive end and you're not mixing it up enough to mix up the side you're doing it with. You're gonna have a hard time. Like those guys are very athletic quarterbacks, man. These dudes can run.
How do you think Jalen's arm compares to Lamar's arm?
Better.
Jalen's
got a long way to go as a quarterback. I'm not going to shortchange it. I'm not going to say that he doesn't. But Lamar Jackson, I hate this, man, because I'm biased when it comes to Lamar Jackson. I'm an NC State guy. Lamar Jackson played at Louisville. He tortured us for 4 years. I'm not going to lie. I'm not a big fan of Lamar Jackson because of that. But I try to stay unbiased in it, and he doesn't have a great arm. He doesn't. You can look at things like his velocity readings, guys. I think he threw 49 on the velocity. I mean, it's like bottom 10%, guys. I think Jalen Hurts is a little bit more towards the middle of the pack. I would expect if we had legitimate ball velocity readings on Jalen Hurts, they would probably be in the mid 50s. That's what I would probably guess. Like at worst case, maybe low 50s, but more than likely in the mid 50s. For comparison, Carson Wentz was in the high 50s, and then you get guys like Josh Allen, which is like lower 60s for ball velocity.
And then so you basically saying Hurts a little bit better passer, Lamar a little bit better runner.
Yeah. So
I like the game where he threw for over 300 and still rush run over 100. Yeah. That's going to be awesome if he can consistently do that this year.
Yeah. Lamar Jackson just has his ability to accelerate is unlike, like Michael Vick was the only other dude I saw like that. And Lamar Jackson's it's a different level. It's when he hits the joystick.
Yeah.
It's over. It's all over.
It's that turbo.
Yeah, exactly. He got that turbo mode all day.
I think Jalen's going to get a lot of yards just off of those little things. Like he knows how to slide. You know what I'm saying? So he can get out the pocket. He doesn't see nothing open. He can run that, 7 yards, get out of bounds, 10 yards, do his little slide, keep the chains moving. I think that's a big part of the offense I think we're going to have this year that we didn't have before.
Yeah, I think where Jalen Hurts excels when it comes to being a mobile quarterback is that he has the vision of a running back. He really sees the field very well for a quarterback when he decides to take off and run the football. He just has really good vision as a running back. Well, a running quarterback, I should say, not a running back, because I've already had those comments. You know, when you do videos, you'll learn, man. You're going to get some guys that come in and want to talk about, he's really a running back playing quarterback. Like, no,
I see him
you're not adapting to the modern league.
I watched him here. I think he's a passer first. He'll run if he have to. Most of his most explosive plays coming off of making, either on bootlegs or, getting out of the pocket and not running and actually throwing the ball down the field.
Yeah. To me, he reminds me, I'll give you the guy he reminds me of. He reminds me of Donovan McNabb. That's who he reminds me of.
Yeah.
it's exactly who he reminds me of.
It's a good comparison right there.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. That's good stuff, man. Good stuff. Thank everybody for being in the chat. Remember to hit that like, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. We're going to be doing this all the time, man. I love these live videos. So, give me your top 5 Eagles of all time and your generation of watching the Eagles.
In my generation. This one will be controversial because he didn't play for the Eagles for very long, but it's just the heights he took the Eagles to. Number 5, Terrell Owens.
Yeah.
Number four. This is going to go back a little while before people probably really knew too much about the Eagles, but I'm going to say number 4 was Eric Allen.
Yeah.
Number 3, Troy Vincent. Number 2, Reggie White. I know that's controversial to say he's number 2, but Reggie was the beginning of the free agency thing. He did leave Philly, probably no more of a dominant player during their tenure in Philly, but number 1, Donovan McNabb. I have to give it to McNabb, man. And I know that's controversial because there are people that hate McNabb because he didn't win the Super Bowl, but 5 NFC championships and a Super Bowl appearance. He dominated the NFC East for the majority of his career. Donovan McNabb, to me, in my lifetime, yes. And then I could really extend it out to 10 players because that's not even counting Cunningham, Jerome Brown,
Dawkins,
Brian Dawkins,
Trotter.
Joyner, Clyde Simmons. I mean, there's a lot of guys. Yeah. Trent Cole and all those guys.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Trotter. I think you said Trotter, but Trotter. Yeah.
He's a beast.
I mean, I've got a long duration of time that I've watched the Eagles for, but yeah, I mean, T.O. will probably be the controversial one just because I think a lot of guys would probably put a guy like Doc there over T.O., but to me, like what I saw T.O. do in that one season,
yeah,
I know what a dominant number 1 wide receiver looks like based upon T.O.
Yes, because he dominated that year.
Yeah,
that was a dominating year for sure. All right, that's a good list. I like it. It went a lot different from a lot of other people's lists. I tell you that much, but I liked it. It's real good. It was real good because I always go. I'm always going with Randall, man, because he's the reason why I like the Eagles in the first place. You know what I'm saying? Randall, you got Reggie White, you got Dawkins, you got Donovan McNabb, and then Brian Westbrook. Because I'm a short running back, so Westbrook's my guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Him,
even Caden, LaShawn McCoy. I mean, there's a lot, man. I mean, we grew up in a really good generation, but McNabb to me is number 1. I know somewhere my older brother is having a ball with this because he used to love to mess with me about McNabb because until the moment we traded McNabb to Washington, I fully believed he was going to lead us to the Super Bowl and we were going to take on the Lombardi with
every year.
Never once did I waver in that belief.
Until we lost. Yeah.
Yep.
That's how it was with me too. I do remember. Yeah, Donovan's worth it. He's definitely maybe the second. They probably argument all-time Eagle quarterback. Second, maybe third, depending on who you ask. You know what I'm saying? Some people he's the first. But you gotta add Jaworski and Randall, obviously those two.
Yeah, I mean, I was born when Jaworski was there, but I didn't really watch Jaworski. I came up during Cunningham's era, so he wouldn't really, that wouldn't really be fair. I can't talk about guys like, Harold Carmichael and Mike Quick's
Mhm.
my guy, NC State guy. I've met Carmichael. I've got an autograph from Carmichael before. He was really good friends with one of my former bosses
Mhm.
in college. Really wasn't my generation, though. I mean, I was too young for that. Wilbert Montgomery,
Yeah.
there's those guys too, but those were all a little bit before me.
Okay. When I put together your, if you had to go win a game, give me your all-time Eagles defense.
Oof. All-time Eagles
So
defense.
start, you got to give me 11.
Starting 11. All right. Defensive ends. Give me Reggie.
Mm-hmm.
Give me Trent Cole.
Mm-hmm.
I know people are like, what about Brandon Graham? Give me Trent Cole.
Trent Crow, yes, I love Trent.
Yeah. Defensive tackles. And mind you guys, obviously scheme would play a role in this, but I'm just going off of like kind of how I would rate these guys. Defensive tackles, give me Fletcher Cox. Boy, this is a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
Give me Jerome Brown, although it was very short-lived. When Jerome
Mm-hmm.
Brown was there, Jerome Brown was the man.
Mm-hmm.
Give me Fletcher Cox. Give me Jerome Brown. Linebackers. Whew. Boy,
Yeah.
that's tough. I'm going to ignore the fact that we're in a modern age of football and Jeremiah Trotter wouldn't make any sense in today's football. But give me Trot. Give me Trot at Mike. Who would my will be? Man, that's a great question. Who would the will linebacker be? Man, Carlos Emmons, maybe. I'd probably say Carlos Emmons maybe at the will. Would probably make some sense. And then Carlos Emmons there.
D'Amico.
Yeah, you could put D'Amico. I would say between, so strong side, I would probably go Seth Joyner over
Oh,
D'Amico, but I
yeah.
can understand if
Oh,
people
yeah.
plugged in a D'Amico. I
There
would
you
probably
go.
say Seth, Trotter, Carlos Emmons for me. Safeties, free safety. Ooh, boy, that's tough. Okay, I'm going to mix up my safeties, and I know this isn't fair.
And if you want to
Free
go,
safety. Free
yeah.
safety. Give me Andre Muddy Waters. And then strong safety, I'm going to convert my guy Brian Dawkins to a strong safety.
Okay.
Corners, only two guys for me, man. Eric Allen and Troy Vincent. That would be my starting 11.
That's
So what
nice.
I say? I said Reggie, Trent Cole, Fletcher Cox, Jerome Brown, Jeremiah Trotter, Carlos Emmons, Seth Joyner, Andre Waters, Brian Dawkins. Then we got Eric Allen. We got my guy Troy Vincent.
There we go. And you winning that game.
Yeah.
You win that game. All them in their prime, you're gonna win. You're gonna win that game.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good one. What Jalen said here.
Hey, he got cursed. He brought in Javon Curse.
Oh, the freak was good with us, man. The freak was good with us. I do like that. Joyner, Trotter, Leto, Sante. I like Sante being in there. MJ and DRC. Which one does he stand for? MJ. Malcolm Jenkins.
Oh yeah, Malcolm would have been probably a good choice at strong, but I gotta have my guy Brian.
A
I gotta
lot of
have
people
B-Dog
have
in there.
DRC, and I think about the great Eagles, like you said, you got Eric Allen, Troy Vincent, Bobby Taylor, Lito Shepard. I liked Lito a lot of years. Sheldon Brown. But yeah, DRC was good for us too. He played some good ball in Philly.
Yeah, I just couldn't go, man. Like, rest in peace, the late Andre Waters.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't fathom creating a defense without my guy, without Muddy Waters back there.
What about Michael Lewis? Did you like Lewis?
I did. Yeah, I did. But I mean, honestly, I think Malcolm Jenkins certainly, in terms of the strong safeties we've had of my recent memory, yeah, he was the better of them. You could also make some arguments for Asante Samuel at corner. I just, in terms of pure coverage abilities, Eric Allen and Troy Vincent, man, those guys were lockdowns when they were here.
Yes, they
and
were.
then, even, you going all the way back to like when we first got, Lito Shepard and Bobby Taylor were mixed in there with, with guys. What we had Bobby Taylor and Troy Vincent starting.
Yeah,
And we had Lito, and we had I mean that was
Adam
and
Brown.
yeah, that was
Yeah.
man, that was so long ago, man. But
That's why I say like the newer generation don't even remember that we used to have dominating corners on the side. Like, they were some of the tops in the league. Lito went to Pro Bowls, Sheldon went to Pro
yeah,
Bowls, Eric Allen, all of them went to Pro Bowls and they were dominating back in those days. They were I
yeah,
remember Leo took that pick back to the house against the Cowboys, I think it was. Man,
yeah,
so many highlights you can just remember our CBs to see our team the last couple of years or the last couple even like the last decade. We really haven't had that dominant, tandem back there.
shout out to you, Brenda.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The young people out
Yeah,
there, like, what are you talking about? We never had good corners,
yeah, he
like
came. Jalen
yeah.
came in the McNabb era, so you probably came just past really the height. What I thought, like there was like 1 year in particular where we had
Was Lito and
Bobby
Shelton?
Taylor and we had Troy Vincent, we had Lito Shepard, and we had Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that was dude.
That
That
was
was a ridiculous,
stint of good corners.
ridiculous. And we had Al Harris 1 year too.
Yeah, when we had Asante, right?
Yeah. Well,
There
maybe
was
it might have been before
Asante.
Asante. I think it was before Asante we had Al Harris.
I bet they played
But yeah,
together. Who was on the other side of Asante back in those days?
that's a good question. It's been a while. I have to go
Yeah.
back and look.
I thought it was Al Harris, but maybe I was wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bottom line, we had some corners. Even
Yeah, we did.
linebacker, even if you want to go to D'Amico Ryan when we got him from the Texans, that was a good little stint there. I like Nigel
Bro, do you
Bradley.
remember when the fan base thought that Sheldon Brown was bad?
Yeah.
Let that sink in, Philly. We
Yeah.
once thought Sheldon Brown was bad. We would
Yeah.
kill to have somebody of Sheldon Brown's abilities to
Right
be
now,
CB2 right now. Yeah.
it'll be whew.
Mm-hmm.
Give me some bold predictions this year. Give me like 3 or 4 bold predictions about our birds this year that you're gonna go out. Maybe I want some bold ones too. Like, give me some statements. Like, okay,
All right. I'm going to say we will have Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts will throw for over 4,000 yards and rush for over 1,000. That's the biggest of bold predictions. I
that's
think
a
I get
bold
it.
position. I like it though. I like it.
I think we will have 4 guys with 500 or more yards receiving. I think we will see 4 guys with over 500 yards receiving.
Okay.
All right, one more. Let's try to go defense.
Yeah, it was a
Go
defense
defense.
position.
Defense. All right, I'm going to say, oh boy. All right, this is bold prediction.
Yes.
And it's probably really, really wrong. But I'm going to go on record and say it anyways. Brenda, shout out to your cousin. Fletcher Cox will have double-digit sacks this year.
Oh, Fletch with a double-digit sacks. Yes. That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
Yeah, hey, Jalen, I was on the wavelength about Derek Barnett having a big year too, but I do think Fletch could be a real wrecking ball if the system's right here. I really like Tracy Rocker as a defensive line coach, and I like the creativity of what I think Gannon's going to bring here.
Yeah. My bold predictions are Hurts is going to be a dark horse MVP.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody don't think so, and I think he can do it. So I'm going with Hurts being an MVP. I'm going to say us having the #1 defense in the league this year.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, will be my second bold prediction. Devontae Smith having 1,300 plus yards and over 10 touchdowns this year.
Ooh.
And then my last one would be Darius Big Play Slay giving 7+ interceptions this year. Because he's rocking
going on that high note.
He's rocking #2 again. He said that makes him feel young. So I'm gonna say, let's see you play some young ball, Big Slay.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. it's going to be real interesting to see what they do.
Mm-hmm. Well, hey, Steven, it's been great. Thank you for coming on the show. Like you guys, if you guys don't have them, subscribe. If you're not subscribed to them, go ahead and subscribe to them. But I know most of you guys probably are already. But thanks for coming on. Tell them where they can find you at.
Guys, Gate City Sports, GATECITYSPORTS on YouTube. I'm not creative when it comes to Twitter and Instagram. At Hyder Steve or Steve Hyder for, I think, Instagram is Steve.Hyder. But at Hyder Steve on Instagram, guys. I'm not hard to find. If you don't know how to spell my last name, it's HEITTER.
Man, I was putting in Gate City looking for. Come on now. Where's he at? Where's he at?
My bad. Hey, guys, I'll get better about putting my social media stuff. The amount of times that Mike and my guy Philly Fresh have yelled at me about, yo, Gate, you've got to start putting your social media links in your videos. Right. I'll get better at that, guys. I promise y'all. All right. That's my July 15th resolution.
All right. We're going to see some more Gate City. Well, thank you guys for being with us today on another episode of Birdgang Nation Sports Talk. Like I always say, fly, Eagles, fly. Until next time. Peace.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you having me.